Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry.
Hey, this is Hamilton Horne of King Tide Farms, and you're listening to the Eating Habits.
Sweet. What's up, Hamilton?
Hey, bud, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you.
We've kind of been on hiatus for a hot minute, so to our listeners, thanks for hanging out and letting us take a break. I'm excited about this conversation. I've been wanting to get Hamilton on here for a hot minute. I'm really interested in what you're doing here in Charleston. I too did some farming, so I'm super into like growing and that whole process. But before we get into all that, let's talk about how you got to what is King Tide Farms? How does it work? And then why you got to farming, like what led you to that?
Got it. Yeah, so King Tide Farms, it's a hydroponics farm inside of a 40-foot shipping container. So I purchased it from a company, Freight Farms, out of Boston, Massachusetts, and had them deliver it down here to me, and then kind of built my business around this growing device that they provide for you. So what it is it's got a little bit of everything in there. It's got some hydroponics, some aeroponics, it's got some new age stuff. But really just traditionally what it is going to be your hydroponics, which is your nutrients being delivered through the water system there. Gotcha. And what we do is we're running 18-hour days, and that really shortens our grow cycle to be able to grow things within 6 to 7 weeks and get that out to you. So again, with that cool small grow cycle, we can grow a lot of cool things for chefs and kind of keep up with their ever-changing menus and demands.
Gotcha. Where is this shipping container?
Gotcha.
Is it like sitting in your yard? Yeah. Is it like in a junkyard? Like where is this thing? I imagine it being like in the back of a junkyard somewhere with like some Rottweilers guarding it.
Right. Yeah. I tried putting it in the backyard. Yeah. They didn't like that.
Who's they?
The town of James Island.
Okay. So you're located on James Island.
Yeah. No, that's where I live. So I tried
okay. Tried to put it in your house, and they were like,
No.
Okay.
So it is a shipping container, and so that's what you're having to face a lot of the zoning issues with, right? Like You try and convince them, no, it's this farm, but it's, in the end, all they see is it's a container. So
right.
The gray-haired men were pretty hard to persuade on a couple different issues, but we got it now at the Firefly Distillery in Park Circle. So
okay, cool.
That's really great. They're good people. And to get back to the why and how it all started was after Hurricane Dorian, I went down to Hopetown, Bahamas, where Firefly does have a resort down there, this Firefly Sunset Resort.
Cool.
And there's a lot of historical ties to the Bahamas through Charlestonians and pre-Revolutionary War times and stuff like that. So I went down there, helped them build back and worked at the distillery or the resort down there. And, that's where we really kind of fed everybody, was out the large commercial kitchen there.
Cool.
And I just really saw, a need and how important it is to have fresh food, because they grow like 2% or maybe 1% of the food they actually consume in the Bahamas.
Yep.
And even still, you're having to put it on a boat or a plane to get it from the islands around.
Yep.
And so it was just very, I guess, like that moment for me, like, fresh food is just so much easier now to get to places. What if you just helicoptered one of these things in and started growing right away? And so from that came back and kind of really just started doing my research and figuring out how can I do that and how can I, provide food more locally and not have to have this long logistic train of getting 18-wheelers involved from California to get our lettuce to the side. And then again, for the chefs too, giving them something, more fresh to work with and not having to waste their money.
Yep. That's interesting. So the impetus of this was some of the relief work that you were helping out with down in the Bahamas after Dorian.
Certainly.
That's crazy. Very interesting. Is anybody doing this down there right now in the Bahamas?
Sir, yeah, they actually have 2 of the exact same units in Nassau now.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
Very cool. How much does one of these things cost?
Yeah, so to get it from them, it's going to cost about $140,000.
Okay.
And it is kind of difficult to get financing on something like this because it is new.
Yeah.
So that was definitely...
Banks are kind of weird about loaning for things they don't know they're going to get their money back on.
Again, back to those gray-haired guys, they fear what they don't know, right? So they're going to not really be, as adamant about giving you money for something like this as a traditional piece of farming equipment. Like you go see a farmer and he's getting a tractor, right?
Yeah.
They got a great loan program for him.
Sure.
Right? And in my mind, that's how I see that piece of equipment, a piece of farm equipment. So Yeah, that was one other aspect that you kind of had to work around is getting that money to that. So 140K to get them and then deliver it here. And then, you have to kind of get your electricity set up, build a pad, things like that. And so
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's interesting to me. I hope people find it interesting. But so first, what does the 140K include? So that's your shipping container. That's the infrastructure inside of it.
Yep. And the support system behind it is huge, right? So
Okay.
there's definitely other people out there that are selling these, and that was big for me.
Okay.
Right. Because I'm not a hydroponics farmer, right? I've actually done row crops for a few years and things like that, but never in this capacity or this method. So that was very important to me, to find someone that I could rely on with that support anytime I needed it.
Yep.
And they're great for that. So something breaks, I call it, they're logging into my farm, remotely, they're checking to see what's going on and really maintaining the system for me at the same time.
Gotcha. So they can remotely access the analytics for power usage, water consumption, whatever, nutrient levels, things like that, all through a remote situation.
Yep, it's called Farmhand, and I control it from my phone.
That's dope.
And we call it our almanac.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Super cool. And so that 140K is the machine. It's the infrastructure, whatever that backbone is, right? And then it has to have probably some sort of power in. But I don't know, was it breaker panel or something?
We are using some power. So that is, you can't save the world by yourself, but we use about 5 gallons of water a day to grow 15,000 plants. We're doing 18-hour days. So again, that's shortening that cycle down to about 5 to 7 weeks, depending on what size of the product you want. Like your lettuce is what we're talking about, 4 and 5 weeks, right? So we spend 3 weeks in a nursery, and then we transfer to these cultivation walls where everything's grown vertically. And so, then with that, the power bill is definitely our biggest overhead.
How much power is it possible to run one of these units off of solar or some sort of renewable type?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, solar is so hard to run monster grids off of and things like that. But when we have such a prevalent sun, and I'm working to try and get some grants right now to get solar. So yes, sir, I think that's one of the big things that solar can help with. There are smaller projects like this, even if it offset it, man.
It's huge.
It's crazy to think though, you're capturing the sun to grow plants inside, or you could just grow the plants outside, right? It's kind of ironic in that sense, but yeah.
But why is that important though? Because I think this is something that I thought about. So when I opened my farm, Corey and I started a farm a few years ago, and we ran it for 2 full seasons. It was like 2.5 seasons we grew on the farm, and we played around. We went through all of these kinds of ideas, right? Like, do we want to do some, do we want to grow inside? Do we want to grow, in the dirt? How do we, I wanted to grow in the dirt. Because I wanted, as a chef, I wanted to understand the stuff that we're cooking. I wanted to understand the process. I wanted to understand how all these things kind of play together to help boost my food game, right? My food knowledge. But there is something to be said, and the purists out there are like, if it's not grown in dirt, whatever.
Love those.
But there's a good argument as to why this is important. I'm curious what you're...
So I kind of was talking about it earlier. I was in row crops for a while. So I was in agricultural chemical sales. I was the guy pushing glyphosate on all the corn and tobacco.
Gross.
I know, right?
Dude, what is wrong with you?
I'm atoning for my sins.
Okay. Is that what's going on?
That's exactly
Okay,
it.
so this is part of it too.
This is it, right.
All right.
So with that, it's never going to be a replacement. Right. We have to complement that. And so with growing inside, I feel that we can control the yields and we can control outputs a lot more. You're never changing your problems. You're buying a new set of problems.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what common misconception with a lot of people. They're like, oh, I'm going to farm inside. Now I'm not going to have any problems. Let me tell you, bugs find you.
Bugs, you can't keep them out.
You flood a farm. You forget to turn a farm on. You forget to turn a drain closed. So there's always going to be those problems. So I see this as a complementary way to again, shorten the logistics. It's what we're calling it hyperlocal. I don't get behind all these marketing gigs, but the hyperlocal and not having to distribute goods, just these massive distances, and the USDA and FDA says that 400 miles away is considered local. That's anywhere outside of South Carolina. Right. At any point in South Carolina. So that was really important to me. And I think growing inside can do that because in places like this, where else? We don't have any more land here, man. We got to go up. So I can stack 4 of these on top of each other on 320 square feet. And that translates to about 2.5 acres per unit.
I think also the thing that's most attractive to me about what you're doing is that you get to control the one thing that You know, row crop farmers can't control the weather. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
And that was something that Corey and I like learned some pretty brutal lessons about. You know, if you're not getting rain, you got to pay for your water. You got to set up all those infrastructures. If you get a storm, I mean, a storm can wipe out an entire farm.
Just had it, that frost.
Yeah, or flood, or like anything, right? A drought, a flood, wind,
The locusts come at you.
yeah, like
Right,
who
yeah.
knows? Like any number of things can wipe it out, and there's a lot of things to mitigate that. But you've got a lot of tools by doing kind of this indoor process. Like, okay, wind isn't your issue, rain's not your issue. You know, those kind of things you can kind of control. I'm sure you've got some temperature control.
Certainly.
You got like
temperature, humidity. I control the CO2. So we're really controlling everything. And, you know, that's the thing, too, is getting those plants when they need it. We don't want to stress plants, right? When you stress those plants, they'll either start to, you know, to bolt on you or, you know, change the flavor. And just like anybody, you're not the same person when you're stressed.
Totally.
A plant's not going to be the same when it's stressed. So that's really what we're trying to focus on with controlled environment ag. And the CEA is kind of what they call that. And what it is just trying to maintain just exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Humidity, temperature, making sure it doesn't go too high, too low. You know, you might have propane if it gets too cold to heat it up and things like that. You know, it can be in a greenhouse and considered controlled environment ag. So there's a big umbrella and blanket of what it can be. But yeah, I think that's really cool. And, you know, I'm kind of seeing my first winter season now and feeling for those people when it does hit them, you know, I don't know what the weather is outside.
Right.
It's not a concern of mine at all.
Yeah. Interesting. How much product can you cultivate? How much are you cultivating a week?
Gotcha. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I have 4 walls in there, and I'd like to have a wall a week be a harvest, basically.
Okay.
And so there's 22 panels on there, and there's kind of like 5 rows in between each panel.
Okay.
And with that, you know, depending on what I'm growing, you know, I can put out a pretty good amount of lettuce, but that's kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, and I can't do some of those cooler things like with the mustards and the arugulas and herbs and things like that. So, you know, conservatively saying right now, I could probably do 75 pounds of lettuce, then I probably do like another 25 pounds in leafy greens, and probably do another, you know, 25 pounds in herbs and things like that. So a good 100 pounds a week, depending on what I'm doing and the varieties that I'm growing.
Yep.
But you know, the numbers that they have and that we have studied with different things, it can put about 2 tons a year out.
Okay.
So you can really push it, you know, and it does grow some root vegetables and some things like that. But that growth cycle is going to really be affected.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. So greens are an obvious choice because they have a quick turnaround time, right? I mean, micros, I mean, when I was doing my research for our farming, right, we knew instantly that we needed to do micros because all my chefs use them.
Right.
You know, I'm kind of phasing out of micros. Like I'm like,
you love or hate them?
I'm like, fuck that shit.
It's definitely, there is 2 sides to that argument. For sure.
And the thing is, like, you know, and I skate the line, right? It's like I love, like what you and I discussed for this new tasting menu thing that I'm going to be doing starting next month, which we'll talk about later. Some really unique, interesting herbs and things that you don't see everywhere as garnishes to enhance a dish, right? But one of the things I despise and I see all the time is people are just throwing piles of micros on shit. Yeah, just to, like it's like give it up, man. Like for why, right? Because you need something else, or you need to fancy it up or whatever, and I can't get behind that.
I'm right there with you.
So I'm kind of like on the line about it, and I think there's definitely a market for it, like those, you know, specific herbs that are going to bring a flavor characteristic or something to a dish, right?
Everything has a purpose on a dish, right?
It should. And then sometimes it doesn't. And I can't stand that. But so Corey and I, you know, obviously we're like, hey, we got to grow micros because we can turn these around in, you know, three weeks. In 20 days, we can have a full harvest of vegetables that can help us buy some, you know, whatever bone meal that we need to you know, amend our soil as we get into this crop rotation situation in the ground. And so that was a huge learning curve, and we were just growing under simple lights. Right. I mean, you can have a very humble system to grow microgreens.
That's what I have. I hand water mine.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
I got 2 racks and I hand water them.
And are those inside your container?
They are. So,
okay.
You know,
for the time being, they are.
Like you said, I'm controlling everything in there. I'm paying a pretty penny for that atmosphere. I'm trying to grow everything I can in there. But want to get something outside where I can put those in because, like you said, those things will grow anywhere almost.
Yeah. I mean, I heard you talking yesterday in the kitchen to, you were talking with Chef Jack about growing I think it was the pea shoots?
Corn and peas.
Oh, corn and peas under like cloches, like completely shaded so that to change flavors and stuff, which I think is amazing. And that's super fun, right? Like you're able to manipulate and play around with different growing techniques and stuff to give a different product. And then, obviously the lettuce greens, every restaurant's got a salad.
Right.
Turnaround time's good. So it's a good investment. I'm super interested in the baby vegetables.
Right.
Like what are your thoughts on that? What are your concerns about it? Obviously the time is going to be something, right? Like
so,
how much, and we'll get into this later. Let's talk about the vegetables,
right.
But I want to lead into the finance part of this, right? You've got a limited space,
right?
You pay a pretty penny for it,
right?
How are you going to
and that's
attack
it.
that?
Yeah. So a lot of the determining factors for this is you got to remember I have one tank, so it's one nutrient mix. I've got one environment, which I've got one humidity level, one temperature level, and I'm running 18-hour days right now to get the best out of my plants that I can. Some plants don't like that much, right? And you just can't push them that much. And so with those root vegetables, I can grow them in there, but as you said, I got real estate and it's expensive in there. And so with that, I really have to grow what I can, what I can sell and what I can get my money back on, as quickly as possible. And not as quickly as possible, but within the realm of, again, that 7-week kind of that cycle. And so that's where, I've done radishes. I have done some of the baby carrots in there, and they push like 9 and 10 weeks. And again, if I could just have one container though for all of those, then I could make it much more efficient.
And you could maximize your nutrient situation and all that.
And now it's just called a radish farm now, right? I'm just putting out every kind of crazy radish you can think of, right?
Which I would buy those.
I want to. And radishes are they're not seasonal. Everyone always needs them, and you can do a lot of varieties of those.
Yeah, right? And those like miniature.
The English breakfast
are so beautiful.
I got some wasabi seeds. I got a bunch of radishes because that was one thing I wanted to do is just do a bunch of radishes, and it's not feasible.
Hey, could you have you looked into doing fresh wasabi in there?
Not in there, but I have looked at it. I have a wasabi arugula that kind of, and then a wasabina, which is the mustard. Yeah, I try and do, but I have looked into that. I think
like the actual root.
Yeah, I think I would need raised beds at best, and I need like a year plus on that.
It's not going to happen.
Nah, well, it could, but it's not. Not right around the corner. Not next season.
That seems like a long grow time for something.
And then you're like, all right, how much is this now?
Yeah, how much do I got to sell this wasabi root for? Right. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So, but yeah, experimenting with things like that. We've got some cool trees that we can do. Some like, in there, I can do tomatoes and pepper plants as well. But again, I have limited space, and so I have to grow what I know I can sell right now. But it's fun playing around with that. It's obviously the reason I bought that is I like experimenting with different things. So always trying stuff.
How much thought do you give to, I'm wondering like what your ethos and thought process is about just general agriculture. Obviously you were part of the chemical sales stuff. You're atoning your sins right now with your hydroponics. Like, what are your thoughts on that generally? Just where you think it's at, where you think it's headed, and what consumers' roles are in that, and then restaurants and chefs' roles in that. Where's your head at on that?
Yeah, we'll never replace traditional ag. You just can't do it. We got to feed too many people, and to get that all done. But I believe that the transparency is the problem.
Okay.
Right. So the reason I started this is I did want to see the more transparency in where your food's coming from. And we kind of lost that, and they tried to bring it back with that cute marketing gimmick, farm to table. Where did it always come from? Yeah. So it's exactly what you're saying. What does that farm look like? Because we are saying farm to table, but anything can be defined as a farm. As you see, I have a shipping container I'm calling a farm. Yep. So these factory farms, and as you see, these chicken prices are now going up. And it's literally like, it's so ironic, putting all your eggs in one basket. And that's what they've done. And just,
why are those prices going up?
Because the avian,
that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the prices going up. Right. I don't give a fuck about that. Right. I want to talk about why they're going up. Right. Because I don't think those people understand. Right. And that's important.
It is.
So eggs are out of control right now.
Oh my gosh, man.
But why?
So they have these factory farms where they pack all these chickens in these farms, and the chickens are already, again, we're talking about stressed. Nothing is going to produce anything good that's stressed. Your kitchen guys, you know, your chefs, they're not going to do anything stressed.
No.
If they've got to worry about what's coming, where their paycheck's coming from, like all that, am I going to have enough for rent? Like, you're not going to do your good job. You can't focus on what you're doing. Plants can't grow under stress. Chickens can't produce eggs under stress. They can, but they're going to be shitty eggs. Yeah. Right. Yep. And they're going to charge you a bunch for them still. So the avian flu comes through because they have these factory farms. And again, we're putting all of our eggs in one basket, relying on one part of the country to supply everything for the whole country. Yep. We're doing it with lettuce in Arizona and California, where 90% of all of our lettuce comes from there.
And we saw that, I think, last year, right? It was like last year, the flooding and all that shit out there.
$100 for 25 heads. Yeah. It was absolutely insane at one point, seeing some of the prices. And that's why I kind of got back into lettuces, to help out a little bit with that too. But, you know, with that, again, to the farm and the definition of what it is, it's got to get back to where it's more manageable. Just anything. You can't manage a whole bunch of good things. I believe that if you're good at something, you're good at one thing, and you focus on that, and you get it done. And I think these farmers just try and do everything. And again, back to the chickens, they're getting fed all the, you know, I could go on forever about it. They're getting fed the wrong things, pumped full of hormones, they're stressed, so they're barely producing eggs. And then when a flu or some sort of sickness comes through,
it wipes out an entire
doesn't
flock.
Take anything. Doesn't take anything, because they're all already living on one leg.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And I think what, you know, a lot of the stuff that I learned about that, because Corey and I kept chickens too. That was something that was important to us.
So easy. They use food scraps, man.
Yeah. And like, and so like, and I love eggs. And if you've had like fresh eggs, man, you'll never, you won't buy. You can
look at it. You can look at it.
Yeah. And so the thing about the chickens is like, they're not very hardy creatures. If you look at a chicken the wrong way, it dies. You know what I mean? Like, we got a cattle dog specifically to keep these things alive, like to keep like any critters away from them.
Right.
And she did a great job mostly, but I mean, if you look at a chicken the wrong way, they're donezo. So like you were saying, one flu, sickness will wipe out 100,000 birds in a week.
Right. And they're not going to lose money. They're just going to raise the prices on you.
Right, exactly.
No one. They're in business to make money.
Well, but then you know, you don't have the chicken is the infrastructure, right? Like to lay the eggs. Right. Well, now you just wiped out 100,000 birds. Like, it takes time to get back to laying age, right? They're not just, you know, chicks don't just start laying eggs, right? They have to mature and all that stuff, and so that process gets wonky and played with and tampered with.
How can we do it quicker? How
right.
can we do it quicker? Yep. And that's exactly it. That's all they're worried about.
What do you think at all? Like, so one of the things that I'm super interested in the farming thing is about the nutrient levels of the things that we're eating and how the growing practices and, you know, affect the nutrient density of our food and stuff. Do you think about that at all? Is that anything that you
top of the mind always? The biggest thing we can do to change that, logistics. If it takes, I mean, think about you getting on a plane in California right now and coming here.
Yep.
Right now, let's talk about 1,000 pounds lettuce.
Yep.
Right. So it's going to take some time and logistics to get that over here.
Yep.
You know, I can harvest all of my stuff and get it to you within. I don't have any refrigeration.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
I have nothing.
Yep.
Right. And the first question everyone asks me is, "Where's your refrigeration?" I don't have any.
Yeah.
It's not needed. I harvest it, and within an hour or so, it's to the chefs, and it's in their walk-ins and ready to roll.
Yep.
So with that, I can provide a more nutrient-dense product just alone because the water levels and the water density hasn't left that plant. So we're losing like 60 to 70% of all of the water density in plants that are being shipped for 3 days or more to get to us.
Yep.
Going back to that hyper-local approach and wanting to be within 100 miles, 200 miles to be able to get to somebody in a reasonable time that's not sitting in refrigeration, refrigerated cars, hot, cold. I mean, you always see the beer trucks. Like, oh man, that beer's hot. Now it's going cold. And so it's just the same thing. It's going hot and cold, getting all the way to you over here. And then by the time it gets to the chef's hands and gets into y'all, man, it's half of it's gone. I see it all the time. Yeah. Right. It's literally how I decide what to grow with sometimes. I walk in, tell me your pain points, chef. I hear him cussing Thai basil. I got you Thai basil. Don't worry about that. And so, that is one of the biggest things, though, that we can change for the nutrient density aspect of our plants is just to cut down logistics.
Do you know anything about, we're talking about systems and logistics, right, in our food system. And it's I don't want to say it's flawed, right? It's not working efficiently.
It's broken.
It is broken. I think, but I don't think it's for lack of trying, right? I think there's some companies out there that are trying to obviously monopolize and make as much as they can off of, less, whatever, growing times and things. They're trying to shave the system, right, to be profitable. But I think there are a lot of people who are trying to fix this problem, right? There's a lot of great minds trying to work on it. One of the things that gets me and that got me really fired up about growing for the restaurants was the food waste situation. And in the transit, how much do you know any of these numbers? Like how much?
Yeah, it doesn't make it straight to the landfills.
Yeah,
no, I don't have the top of my head, but it's astonishing.
It's a huge amount. I was reading some stuff about it a few weeks ago, and I was just like scratching my head, thinking like, I can't believe, like, the amount of effort, time, and money that goes into growing this stuff, right, for human consumption, that ends up being fertilizer.
Yeah,
you just end up throwing it back into the dirt, right? Or into the landfill, which it doesn't even get to the
where you need
right.
to.
It's like throw it back in the dirt, like let it at least decompose, and we can use it again instead of throw it out there. We're never going to get access to it. And so that's what kind of got me thinking about the problem, right? It's like how and why locality is so important to me, right? Like buying local, and the whole fossil fuel part of it, right? Like eliminate that.
I think I'm 4.8 miles from y'all.
Yeah, that's so close. Right. I mean,
it's on the way home. It legitimately is. I live on Park Circle. I go right to downtown to James Island. Y'all are on the way home.
Nice. How many restaurants are you servicing right now?
I'm probably consistently with about 15 to 20 people right now.
Okay.
And I do sell out every week right now, and so just onboarding more people and trying to build that up. But at the end of the week, if I have anything left over, which I rarely do, I do like to kind of help y'all out. Right? Yeah. And so if I have something left over, I know it's going to go. I'm like, hey, I know you need this, and so I just try to pass that.
Float you a little bit extra.
Right. Well, they know I'm coming in for lunch that day.
Yeah,
too.
Right. Yeah. So that's going to get me that that CU burger.
That's right.
So going back to that issue, right? Mm-hmm. That locality,
right,
it's
huge.
Like how part of the problem is that the in my opinion, the food isn't as nutrient rich as it could be or as it should be. How much of that is areas to grow? Right? Like where land is not cheap.
Huge.
It's a huge.
That's the huge component.
And to grow successfully and efficiently, you need specific land. You can't just grow it anywhere. I mean, it needs to be.
They try here with this sandy soil, but I can tell you, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, but you can do it.
Right.
Actually, I was reading about this guy in Florida when I was doing all my stuff. Right, like my whole thing was about human scale farming.
Right.
I wanted to be farming that you didn't need giant machines. I didn't want to use diesel. Right. I wanted everything to be able to be produced from a human.
Handmade.
Yeah, handmade.
That's right.
Because of a lot of these things, right? The natural resource kind of situation, like that stuff is eventually going to dry up, man. Yeah. And so basing all of our livelihood and kind of structure around that, I don't think isn't a healthy approach, right? And so I forgot where I was going with this.
The dude in Florida.
Oh yeah, so dude in Florida. Florida's a giant marsh basically with sand dunes. It's like surrounded by sand dunes. And this dude started doing this like human scale farming down there. But the first thing that he ran into was the seasons are flip-flopped. Right? Like summer, you can't do anything because it's so hot and the sun, you're so close to the equator that's just like
humid,
right? So how do you deal with that? Okay, so he found a way to deal with that. He ended up using grow shade and stuff like that to kind of control some of the UV. But the major issue, so the thing was he didn't want to grow hydroponically. He didn't want to grow indoors. He wanted to use the soil.
Right.
And so the amending of the soil for that project to work, the amount of organic material
to bring in,
leaves, mulch, just dead plant matter, just all kinds of shit. I mean, they were bringing in
compost and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the stuff he was getting for free.
Right.
He was getting it from like horse farms or but that was a whole process, right? You have to find the people to give you the shit. Like I got to compile truckloads of poop, right? But ended up, I think it took, I want to say the number that jumps out in my head is 3 years. I think it took him 3 years to get to like a system where he's now growing in soil that, you know, he tests and amends and stuff, but is growing greens and root vegetables in the wintertime. So when a lot of normal farms are out, right? He's got all the spring crops. He's got radishes, and he's got, you know, all the quick growing peas and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was just fascinating, right? That this guy was like, okay, well, here's a problem. Like, all we grow in Florida is citrus. Right. It's like, okay, that's where you get your citrus from, right?
Well, they fold, right? They're like, hey, look, this is the only environment that I can have without doing anything, so let's grow that.
Right.
And not trying to address a problem. They're just going to move. Okay, well, we're just going to grow avocados here.
Yep.
And we're going to grow, like you're saying, we're going to grow, we're only going to grow lettuce here. And you go over there, it's all indoor anyway.
Right.
Over there. So that's even more hypocritical and funny to it all. It's like, so if it's indoor, it can be anywhere.
Yeah, you put it wherever.
Right.
Take the most gnarliest food desert in an inner city.
Right.
And start pumping out a couple 1,000 pounds of edible,
there was one guy I was
food.
working with that was trying to not disrupt the food chain, but so to speak like that, and wanted to put like 50 of these containers every like 5 hours. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. I mean, there's a couple people that are doing that. Elon Musk's brother, you know, he's doing that with Square Roots. He just opened up a new plant in Kentucky.
Okay.
And they've got like 25, 30 of them, I think, there. And so, I think there's several things that you can do, and it's not run from the problem, like you're saying. I think that we have so much technology now that there are other things that we can do, and it doesn't have to be a complete system, right? Let's just lengthen that cycle or that growth for 2 more months, right? And it's now you're more dependent on locality, like we've been going back to, than having to rely on those guys cross country, out of country, wherever it is to get the stuff for you.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, that's a lot of the stuff that is crushing
it.
Restaurants right now. Right. Is like, the inflation is not just things cost more, right? Because the human labor element, but like the fuel.
Getting it to you.
Yeah, the fuel to get it to you. Then how much of this stuff is getting caught up in transit? Right. Because of the whole supply chain issue.
And they're probably throwing away, exactly. What are they throwing away that we don't even see? Because you know, and you know, going into retail, look, those guys, they're tough in retail. They'll send it back.
Yeah.
And what am I supposed to do with lettuce when they send it back? Like, so I don't do retail. Like, hey man, you want this lettuce back? Like, I thought you were going to buy it.
Yeah. Like, I have no use for it now. I don't even have soil.
Right. I got enough lettuce in my fridge. We're good. We're good. So yeah, that is, and just seeing and how you can't just come together and be like, dude, I'm wasting this. Like, let's do something about it.
Right.
You know, and there are some people around town that are doing some things trying to help get that food to the right places, but no one's standing up and saying, hey, we're throwing this away.
Right.
It's just my job today is to go throw away this container of lettuce.
Right.
And we're talking about, you know, a container, 40-foot container. Right.
Yep.
And that's just their job, and they're not telling anyone what the problem is. So yeah, I think food waste has always been something that's on my mind. It's just, and again, what you can do with that. You can feed chickens, you can feed hogs, you can feed so many things. You can just fertilize your soil and your garden around. I don't know why they won't educate people more on that, but you definitely have to go educate yourself on it.
Right.
That's what it seems like. I know they're not teaching that in the Pythagorean theorem.
No,
right?
For sure. Well, and I think the people so I think there's a couple different levels of awareness on this, right? Like some people don't want to know anything about where their food comes from at all.
And they don't know what it's cooked with. They just want it to taste good. Like, I just
want it to appear in front of me, and then I want
it to taste good in this hole.
Right? Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that are slightly aware, right? They're like, they have a conscience. They're like, I just want to make, you know, I'd like for all my stuff to be coming from a
If there's a choice, I say it like this. If there's a choice, I'll choose one than the other.
Right.
It's not the price guide.
But I'm not going to abstain.
Right.
If whatever.
Right.
And then I think there's like hardcore people that are like, hey, I only want to support
people that can smell their water.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but I think the healthy way of doing that, right, is that people that can at least engage in the chain, right, and have a healthy approach to the chain, meaning, you know, don't rely solely on one aspect of it, right? Like, buy as much as you can local, like the way that we do it, right? I don't boast farms and things on my menu because I think I've developed a reputation for cooking that way. This is something that's been adamant about me.
Should be known.
Yeah. Like, I don't have to say local lettuce, Like my lettuce is local. If I can get it local, it's local.
Right.
If it's not, then it's not. But and I don't have to use that as like you mentioned, as like a marketing tool.
Yeah, man.
Right. I can't stand that.
Right.
Now I will put a farm on my menu if they're doing something special that I like, that I want to promote.
Or if it's big, something big that you can, and again, can they sustain that to you for a time?
Right.
Like, it's not for you just to put it up one time and make a special. That's so much work for y'all.
And that goes to the healthy part of the chain that I was talking about, is like, if you spread it out and you've got a healthy flow of product coming from different areas,
right.
If something happens, you're not stuck, right? And I think that's a lot of what's happening with the chicken situation, right?
Again,
we're going back to that.
Yep.
Is, if you only buy eggs from here, well, then when that dries out, now you're screwed.
My biggest thing is I try and tell everyone, I can't give you that much.
Yeah.
Like, dude, let me get, I don't have that
Let me
much,
supplement
man.
your.
Right. I told you I was in a shipping container,
Yeah,
right? Like, so it's definitely an aspect to it of consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found out chefs want a couple things. You better have that flavor.
Yeah.
Right? Better have that flavor. I've already
Right.
got the local part checked off, so I don't have to go talk about that. And then it's, can you sustain this for me? Like, I'm not about to put this on my menu or use it, and then I've got to next week come up with something else. And then next week we're coming up with something else. Y'all have got a lot going on. So I think it's on, on us to, ease that. And that's, definitely the other side of the business and servicing is going in there and easing y'all's pain. Like, y'all have got staffing issues, trying to find issues, shortage issues, everything else that's going on that they're worried about. And it's a lot easier if I can come in and just be like, hey, well, here's this, and it goes well with this, and I'll have it for this long, right? And so, again, opening that conversation up, having that just transparency on everything, right? Yeah. That's the biggest thing. If you want this, I just need it in advance, like with your lettuces.
Yep.
Told you, hey, man, I need this amount of time, and I can basically guarantee that, right? So, because I'm not going to have.
You better guarantee it, because I've got it on my tasting menu, so it better come.
Right. And so, but that's the thing. I don't have to worry about a frost coming or a storm coming, or say we get a week of rain and now I'm fighting mold and things like that. So that's where, back to the full circle of it. And that's kind of what I can do better is kind of that custom farming is really what I try to tell everyone is I can make it the size you want, the shape you want, the flavor you want. But in doing so, that's the real advantage of CEA.
What do you plan on growing the farm at all?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to right now. It is a one-man operation. I got my godmother on there. Shout out to Diane. She comes in and helps me. So
thanks, Diane.
Yeah. So that free labor, and that's really one of my biggest things is like getting out there and growing the business, right? Because I am having to tend to things, and you saw me in my work gear the other day, and so I was having to fight issues with humidity and tank issues and a pump going out, and like you've got all the sensors for everything but look, when it goes off,
somebody's got to change the pump. Like it doesn't do itself.
Right. And so that's really I'm an HVAC expert now. Like, let me tell you, I can fix an air conditioning unit these days.
Yep, that's awesome.
So with it's the plumbing and everything that's associated with it. So again, you trade a set of problems for another. So if I can get somebody to help me kind of do that more, and I've got a couple people that are looking at that are good for it. A little college guy. And then growing, and I don't want to get stuck in just one way, because you and I were talking about doing the cool root vegetables. So it could be something doing raised beds and then having tunnels over those raised beds so I can get a couple extra months out of the season, right?
Yep.
And like I might say, hey guys, I am down for December and January, and there's nothing wrong with that, but at least having different methods so I can grow different things and expanding different ways. But the controlled environment aspect is big to me. And I think that's, again, the way that I can really serve the chefs around here and the industry here is by being predictable with that. Yeah.
Where you're at right now, behind Firefly, do you have room to do some raised beds, is there
That's
space
exactly
for that?
what I'm looking at. So yeah, I said that exactly. So we're doing raised beds. I'm going to do trellises. I'm going to do some flowers for everybody this year.
Nice.
That seems easy. I'm just going to sprinkle those out and have some trellises, grow that stuff. I've got a couple grow towers as well.
What's a grow tower?
It's like your at-home kit kind of.
Okay,
but it's like a commercial one, right?
Gotcha.
It's 9 feet. Right?
Okay, so it's like a big pedestal with
you
you can run your fluids through.
Yeah, I think it's called a Juice Plus is the one that I have.
Okay.
And so, now I can grow some cooler things like some fruiting vegetables, right? And back to what I'm really
cucumber, zucchini, blossom, that kind of.
Melons.
Okay.
Right?
I'm into that. Yeah.
Right. Some cool things like that. And what I can do then is because it's its own tank, right? So now I can really focus on, hey, what
You
does
can adjust that specific.
bam. And we're nice enough atmosphere here. You know, you might hit a rain or two or things like that, but you're just counting on it to grow still.
Yeah.
Because we do have sunlight. And I think that's the next route I would go, is hopefully to do something to capture some of this sunlight. Like you can have a greenhouse and you can just heat it and cool it.
Yep.
Right. But we have so much sun and it's so prevalent here. And I do have space out there. The guys at Firefly are great. Like they're really into it. We're trying to get a compost little thing going because everything they use is compostable now as well. There's straws and cups and everything. So, yeah, it's a great spot out there. And
Dude,
I mean,
man.
again, there's nowhere else to go. So you're going up the peninsula.
Dude, I got a story for you.
Yeah.
So on the farm, on my farm, Chef Jamie's farm, we, man, I'm like, you know, I'm such like a pie in the sky guy. You know, I'm like this like eternal optimist. I'm like, oh, we're gonna do all this, and I do the shit.
Good.
Like, I fucking get it done.
I need y'all.
Yeah, but it's
I'm
not. Sometimes it's not.
I'm a realist. Like, dude, that's not gonna happen. But I love the show.
So we started composting out of the restaurant in Charlotte. Okay, out of Church and Union, Charlotte, and we're a busy restaurant. We're doing, 300 to 400 covers on a night on the weekends, and then we're grinding.
Right.
A lot of scrap and waste. So I bought these big trash wheelie joints, right? With the flip tops, and we're filling these buckets full a day. So every week I would bring my pickup truck down. The guys would load my pickup truck with 2 of these things. I take it down to the farm and toss it in the compost bin. Well, Corey and I were turning that by hand. Because I was all human scale. I didn't have like machines for this shit. So after about 6 months of doing compost, I was like, what the fuck am I doing, man? Like I'm 47 years old. Like I'm not like a 20-year-old like buck, I was like, what are we doing out here? Like I can't be turning compost. But we actually were able to fertilize one entire 100 by 30 foot bed.
Oh wow.
So we probably had 6. We had, I think, 6 or 7 100-foot rows.
Right.
30-inch rows, completely from raw ground to completely composted and growing vegetables with the vegetable scrap in one season. It was pretty amazing.
It's cool.
It was super crazy, man. I was like, look what we did.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I mean?
The results are so worth it. And that's one thing I'm really attracted to, is because it's such a short cycle.
Yes.
I get to see the results so quick.
Yeah.
Every day I go in there, it's a different jungle.
Yep.
Like it's so crazy.
Yeah.
So
and the thing was like, and the thing about it was like, I learned a ton about it. Right. And that's the real value of this. Right. The value was, for me, was like, seeing it happen and then sharing that with my team, because my team was like, holy shit, like Chef Jamie did this,
right? Like
nobody asked me to do it. I didn't make any money doing it. I did it because I believed in it, and it was something that I thought was important to learn, right?
Yeah.
And we did it, and it was successful, and they got to cook with those vegetables.
The way I compare it to, and I've done it before, is a doctor doesn't know other medicine. A chef doesn't know where all their ingredients come from.
Right.
And so I think it's so cool when y'all take like even more interest in like, oh, what's that doing? Because dude, I don't know it either. Again, I went to the University of Mississippi for 5 years, had a blast. Did not study agriculture there. Jumped in.
Did you study anything there?
Yeah, drinking and women.
Nice. Awesome. Did you get a degree?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I did leave. I think the graduation rate's even like 50%. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's a great time.
Okay.
Great time. And with that, you don't know everything, right? And so that's where again, coming back to that resource, I get to be a resource for y'all now. Like, hey man, let me tell you real quick how it is. And I had a chef tell me one time, worked in the first kitchen, like real kitchen I ever worked in, was Red Drum in Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
Ben Berryhill, loved the guy. And he was like, when I was talking to him about doing this and getting some advice from him, he's like, there was a guy when he was in Texas, and he would come in and he was a meat guy.
Yeah.
But he would always come in with a cool fact every single time.
Yep.
Something about it. And Ben was like, I didn't think I cared at the time. And now that I don't have that, I'm like, all these guys just come in, drop their shit, hand me their invoice, and they're out the door.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think having that relationship and then educating, like, dude, what are y'all doing? Right. Educate me so I know how you're cooking. It's going to better me so I can do my job better and I can produce a better product. And then the more knowledgeable everyone is, the open the conversation is. Like, that's just what I'm really about, is having that open, transparent conversation. And it all helps. Like, you don't even realize when you are talking to each other how it helps.
Yeah.
Like, everything that I've gotten to in this point, it's been some random conversation that I've had with someone that said, oh, well, I know this person, you know that person, let's get y'all connected. And it's crazy how it all works together. So Talk to your neighbors.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's what the podcast is about, right? It's like, it's about communication and getting the information out there, and hopefully people do something with it.
Yeah, research, it's all out there.
What is the most exciting thing or the most inspiring thing for you about what you do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, going to a restaurant, and I hate the word foodie. I'll never use it.
You're totally a foodie.
Nah.
Yeah, you are.
Because come on, man. I got some scars. I've been in the kitchen for a little bit. I worked through college, and I spent so much time there. I had to get a job to put myself through there. They asked me to take a quick break, so I found myself in a kitchen. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not coming home. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to work through a kitchen. And so I worked through there for a little bit, and, nothing big. And then Red Drum was kind of here. It was always my home base. And when I'd come home, I'd work with them a little bit, but never wanted to be called a foodie. But when I started out, I was like, man, it'd be cool to see this on a plate, right? Yeah. And to go sit down and order and see, my wife and I are sitting there because we do enjoy food. We enjoy cooking for each other. That's kind of and there's certain love language. Well, that's our love language.
Nice.
Let me cook dinner for you tonight. And and it's good too. A good 3-course meal or something nice. And so that was really big for me, is just to see that, that's an accomplishment that I could see that I want to do on a business level. On a spiritual level and an emotional level. For what it is for me is all the things we've kind of hit on today. Local. I'm from here. I don't know why. It just means something to us a lot more than everyone else, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I heard one of your other podcasts talk about how we had to integrate with the local market here, right? And I was like, yeah, I listen.
Yeah, you do.
And
nice.
So
you just got some points there.
Yeah,
I like that.
Right. And so that's what I really thought that was a great point that you made too, because you've got to come here and prove yourself. You got to think about how quick the overturn is here, man. Just because your family says you got good meatballs doesn't mean you go open a restaurant on King Street. Right. That's just your family's being nice to you, dude.
Yeah.
Right? And just keep it for
Not everybody else thinks so.
Right. They only can stomach it one time a year. Sorry, that's not every single day. So don't open a restaurant. And so, I think that once you kind of accomplish that, and I tell you what, I have some friends and some chef friends, and they didn't buy from me for a while. Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't going to, guess what? I still called you every week. I'll still text you every week. That's no problem. You say, fuck you. I'm just saying, what time do you want me here tomorrow? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that's an aspect that I have that comes in handy when selling stuff. So, being able to prove to those guys and prove to myself that this is something that was needed, right? I took a shot. I took a shot in the dark. Dude, I bought the concert ticket and then just found my way there. I didn't have an idea where to put this thing in the beginning when I first put the money down for it, and kind of just rolled with it and just kind of felt that it was the right thing to do.
So you put the money down before you had a space to put the...
Well, again, I told you I was going to put it in my backyard.
Yeah.
So I had a space. They just didn't like it. So I've got concrete pads in the backyard.
Sometimes you got to take a leap of faith, right? You got to say, hey, I'm going to make this happen, but I got to take the first step.
Dude, you can run every scenario. You can have every business plan. You can run every business model and run the numbers 6 times over. And you just got to feel it and just know that you're not going to stop. Yeah. Until you get it done. I mean, you've opened countless restaurants now. So
to speak to that is we didn't have a pool of investors when we opened our restaurant. It was a group of us that were doing it for somebody else. And to speak to that is we invested in ourselves. Right. We said, all right, yeah, this is a huge risk, but we're gambling on ourselves. Yep. And I'm not going to fail.
The only thing I've ever failed at is working for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's truly I've been a realtor for 15 years here. And so that's kind of easy. You're just being from here. You can kind of pick them up here and there with referrals. But, I've had every other sales position you can imagine. Yeah. And that's the only thing I've ever failed at is working for somebody else. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. I did finally was like, man, let's take a leap of faith. I know I can sell. This thing says it can grow.
I hope it can grow.
Dude, let's hope it can grow. So yeah, with that though, just, again, proving to the guys around here, and then on the spiritual level and emotional level, just being able to work with your hands. I'm not working with dirt, these nails are staying clean because there's no dirt.
Yeah.
there.
You got those super clean hands, man.
Peat moss plugs. Yeah. But with that, I am able to see stuff grow. I am able to match stuff up. I think it's really cool. I have not had that many chefs tell me what they want. Yeah. So I've been able to go out there and just identify what I think would work. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of comforting knowing you're doing something right and you're on the right path. And I've named a couple things. I have some micro onions I've called youngins.
Nice.
And Kevin Johnson at the grocery was like, did that in 2012. I'll get the menu out for you if you want me to. And I was like, well, at least I know I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
If this guy's calling him that, and I've come up with that without knowing that. So yeah, that's comforting. That's fun to always see something grow and doing it yourself and improving to those guys. And there's always naysayers out there. So
sure.
Talk about investors. They always come back around once you got it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh, right. No, well, it's no longer that price.
Yeah.
Yesterday's price.
So are you You mentioned the numbers. Are you profitable?
I am.
You
Yeah.
feeling
So
good about
that
it?
was one thing right off the bat. You didn't think it would happen. So I got it October 21. It landed here. It sat till March. I put it in the wrong place. I had to get another crane, another 18-wheeler, move it on the other side of Firefly, get it down, my power pole, new pad, all of that. So let's call it like March I got set up of last year. And I wanted to be comfortable with it. I'm the kind of guy that's the first impression's everything, and you got one shot to do this.
Yep.
Like, I can't take a bad product to one of these guys, and they're never going to call you again.
They're like, done,
And it's
move
going to
on.
follow you, right? And when they go to a kitchen, guess what? It just follows you. Like, you don't get a second chance, right? So I spent about 3 months till like June. I really felt comfortable doing it. I wasn't going to do a direct-to-consumer method. I was going to do lettuces directly to people because I think we are very health-focused, and we do have that second tier of healthy person here in Charleston.
Yep.
So I don't have to educate the consumer on why my lettuce is better than yours, which is a difficult part in, more rural areas.
Yeah.
And so with that, I tried to do that. It didn't work. I was trying to set it at some farmers markets. That wasn't working. And then I just quickly pivoted and said, let's do restaurants. I thought y'all were going to beat me up.
Yeah.
I thought the numbers weren't going to work. I thought that I knew I could get more money going directly to consumer.
Yeah.
Right? I could get $4 a head of lettuce and no one would bat an eye.
Right.
I'd take y'all $4 a head of lettuce. Like,
Yeah, we're like,
all right,
yeah.
right. See you, buddy.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
And that's what happened. So
Right.
just listening to that market, changing very quickly, went to the chefs, and it makes it easier on one person. Like, I don't have to bag all these things and every single head of lettuce being a different clamshell. And so I am cutting down on waste. I am cutting down on time, and I am still hitting the numbers that I need to.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. It's also easier dealing with us.
Yeah. Well, sometimes y'all got egos.
Yeah. Well, hell, hold on. No, it's true. It's true. No, it's true. We do. But I think one thing that I learned from our farming days, and it speaks to the whole like efficiency of stuff, is like dealing with direct to consumer is a lot of work, man. Oof. It's a lot of like organization. Yeah. And you've got 40 different bags of stuff instead of 5 different bags, right? And your bags are bigger,
right?
But
handling the product too. That was one thing I found out.
Yeah.
I give it to you in a clamshell. Like, you can't just leave everything there in a clamshell, man.
Right.
So that's cutting down on a lot of waste I see, is because I'm not having people saying, I did a couple small retail spots and they're like, hey, your lettuce is going bad in 5 days. I'm like, that sounds great. You need to eat meat more, right? Or sell more.
Yeah.
All right. So 5 days, that sounds
really
like
good. I don't want my lettuce to be a week and a half old. Like, that's not a good thing.
Battery. Right.
Yeah, because now we're getting into the whole nutrition part of it, where it's like, now it's not the product that I want to sell.
Certainly. And that is not just anyone that is sitting out in like a merchandiser. Like, if all of my stuff, I will question chefs and I'll put it in there, tape it up, write the date on there, and I'll be like, I'll be back in 14 days. And if it's good, we're using it.
Yeah. And
so that's another thing to the longevity of what can last, is if you don't have to spend 5 days moving across the country.
You pick that up in your cooler.
Right. Yeah. So you do have a longer lasting shelf life, less waste. Back to it. Right.
Yep. Cool. What else? What else is going on?
Yeah, that's really it. Like, like I said, I definitely am trying to look to do different things and expand more. And I'm always asking the chefs, what can I grow for y'all? What can I do for you? That's always, educating me on what else is out there. I found out what lovage was the other day. Right. So I'm going to take a stab at some of that.
Nice.
Cilantro is a little bit harder to germinate, and I just, one of the things that irks me is
cilantro's tough.
Yeah, and I'm talking about on the plate though. I can't deal with just the, everyone here's got a taco, and man, if there's not a mound of cilantro or just it's all over the plate and it's just like a cut piece. So that was like one thing I never wanted to grow.
Yep.
But I am finding a different variety now. It's called confetti cilantro, so it kind of looks more like frills and open. So just something different, right?
Yeah, yep.
So that's what I'm just trying to push myself, and always trying to like find something different, because it is a lot of my research. It is a lot of me going out there and seeing what else is out there, following the different guys that do follow, like we were saying earlier, Chef's Garden in Ohio. It's something I'd
Lee
like
Jones.
to aspire to be that, and to be something like on that level. For y'all locally here.
Yep.
And following those markets that they use them a lot, right? So you can just go see like New York, San Francisco, all the markets, Miami, all in California, and just see what they're doing out there.
Yep.
And trying to keep up with that. And again, back to being that resource for y'all. So I'm not just some guy you're placing an order with. I can say, hey man, let's try this, let's try that. And so definitely with the guys at Tempest, I'm always dumping stuff on them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they don't even know. They'll be like, hey, get this. And like, you're ordering too much. I got some stuff to play with. Right.
Yeah.
And so giving that to them and getting feedback from them, it's just really nice to have that relationship that I can have now where I'm not just growing things aimlessly too.
Yeah.
You know?
What kind of plans do you have to start growing outside of the container? You mentioned the raised beds and stuff. I'm really interested in that. I'm wondering what, like in your head, do you have a plan for that? Or are you just kind of kicking around the idea right now? Or are you like about to put something in motion?
I'm definitely still mulling a couple things over. There are a couple different avenues that I could take with it. With the amount of capital that I had to put in initially for where I'm at, I think I could get a little further without having to spend as much. But again, back to that work now, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's having that issue of having some consistent work. And if I do bite off more than this, I'll have to take some of that working money and that cash flow to pay someone to help out, right? I will need a farm manager at that point. So those are the two things that I'm juggling. And I think that the greenhouse is something, again, I want to capture the sunlight here. I'm paying about $1,300 a month in electricity.
Yeah.
So, you know, the HVAC is running at all times for like a cool 68. Like it's nice in there.
Yeah.
It's real nice. And so I think I can do that, and I can limit some of my footprint, you know, with the electricity and also being able to make more money that way, not having to spend that. And then, you know, growing different things then, right? And it gives me more room because I am in a container where I'm confined by space. So even growing flowers is difficult. I grow borage and some violas and two different kinds of marigolds, the jester and the tangerine, but you can tell already it's compacted.
Yeah.
And it's like plants will grow as much room as you give them.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing, right? Just like us. Right. And so I think that being able to have a little bit more room outside in that kind of area would benefit me more, and then doing the raised beds and stuff like you're saying. But I want to stay close. So when you're talking about doing all of these things, you know, I don't want to get so far out where I'm just a farm. I'm a hydroponics farm in a rural area, and that's what I want to stay away from. I want to remain in the city limits and staying within 10 miles. I probably have 100 restaurants. Yeah, right? I'm such a target-rich environment. Like it's really nice.
I mean, you can grow a lot. Like one thing that I learned through our farm was, you know, we bought a 6-acre plot, and we had a huge piece of land.
That's a lot.
And I think we were growing on like 2/3 of an acre, like just under an acre is what we were actually growing on
by hand.
By hand. Yeah. And it was, I mean, we had 4 of those 100 by 30 foot. I mean, they were monster plots, but a lot of it was because we knew we were going to make mistakes too. We're like, we're going to lose stuff. And like, you know, I don't want to be just like dried up. I have to have space to have multiple things going. Right. Yeah. So we grew a lot. We had a lot of vegetables growing, all the time because I had to be able to harvest some, right? We relied on some of those sales to fund the farm, to pay for everything. So I forgot where I was going with that too.
Wait, food's not free?
Yeah. No, it takes work, right? But what I learned about that was that you don't need a lot of space to grow a lot of food. Right. If you're doing it smartly, if you plan how you grow your crops, you can intergrow things. I mean, you have things growing at the same time in the same space, right? With different, and there was a lot of that science that we learned kind of after the first growing cycle. We're like, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way, right? Yeah. I kept researching.
And there's so many varieties out there too. Like you said, that they'll grow. Like, you know, I can't grow spinach.
Right.
Tyler Cook, you know, he wants hammerhead spinach.
Yeah, stuff's great. We used to grow that. That's why they want it. They're all like, "Oh, we want that."
Well, thanks. Like, I've been battling that for like 6 months. Like I've cold germinated this stuff. I've put it in the fridge and individually took the seed.
It needs soil.
Right.
It needs like whatever it is about that.
And he's a little bit colder than what I got too. Yeah. Right. And so, you know, just finding different things. Like there's a katsuna, which is there's a Japanese that tastes like spinach. So like you're saying too, you can grow a lot in a little space, and, you know, you can be conducive for what your zone is and what your environment is, and not have to do a lot. Like you can really surprise yourself with what you can grow and what you'll use in a small space. Like even your little home garden, like you can do a lot. Yeah. It's neat. Cool. It's rewarding.
Yeah. I'm into it. What else you got going on? What else you want to talk about?
No, that's really it, man. Like excited for y'all. I just know y'all got some spots opening up across the country. So get to travel, and get to go visit those places. That's gotta be fun.
Yeah, come on. Right. Come down south.
Oh, no, I don't travel. I was talking about y'all.
Oh, yeah. You don't travel?
Nah, 2 kids now. I can't go anywhere.
How old are your kids?
I have, man, you're going to kill me on this. It's like a 19-month-old boy and then a 4-month-old girl.
Okay, so too young to put to work. Like those baby hands can't be picking
Not
yet.
at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Soon enough, though. So you got to start working on those, the growth, so that you got that free labor coming up.
Certainly. Yeah, but you know.
I tried that with my kid. He was like, oh, no. We brought him out on the farm like twice, and he's like, I don't do the sun or the heat or manual labor.
That's like, when people say they're farming, like again, y'all have no idea what it is. Like I've been in the row crops and all that.
Yeah.
It is so intense. Anyone out there that thinks a farmer doesn't know what they're doing, or is dumb, or is stupid, or doesn't have
don't know
money,
what they're talking about.
They all got new trucks. They're all doing it right.
Yeah.
And then real quick though, one of those stats we were talking about and the food moving forward, I saw it the other day, is I think like 75% of all farmers are like 65 or older.
Yeah, I heard that.
Is that not
that's
gnarly,
scary.
dude?
It's really
First of all,
scary.
65. I hope you're not working. Right?
Yeah.
You definitely should be running a country if you're over that old.
Yeah.
Right.
But these guys are working.
Yes.
These farmers are working till they're like
Sun up,
80
sun down.
or whatever, like until
and
they
so
can't.
that's what it do with. You reminded me of that when you said about the generation behind us. It's because what's it going to look like then, right?
Yeah.
And like
what happens to our food system when all these people are no longer with us, and now we've got like 30% of the farmers that we used to have.
Right, and it's all getting bought up. There's only a couple people that own it now. You know, that's how it's looking like. There's only 3 people that own everything now, or 3 different companies that own every industry and control it.
Yeah.
So you got, Bayer bought Monsanto, so that's one less.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
everybody should grow some food.
Everyone should grow, even if it's in your windowsill. Like you said, the microgreens, literally, you can drop microgreens in cracks and they will grow. Like radish microgreens will grow anywhere under any condition.
Yeah.
It is not hard at all. You can literally sprinkle them anywhere.
We actually have a grow box here at the Jasper.
Right.
On the floor, they have like little raised beds for the tenants, and so we're growing just some like herbs and stuff out there. Perfect. I think everybody should be growing, at least. Like, so one, you can do the process.
Right.
It's just, it's cool to me to learn like where your food comes from.
Right.
Yeah. Like this, like what happens when it rains? What happens when you don't water?
That's the bottom level of person that the consumer. I don't care where it comes from.
Yeah. Like that person.
Lab or dirt, doesn't matter.
Yeah. But a window box, you can grow some herbs and you can grow some radishes and you can grow some things like that.
You can feed yourself too.
Yeah. A couple heads of lettuce.
Cutico on James Island, they do a bunch of herbs outside. Look, I'll go by there. I'll grab the rosemary.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and look how much rosemary is. If you tell me I can just grow a little plant like this and not spend $8, which you're only going to use 2 sprigs for the recipe.
Right.
I think that's what pushes a lot of people away from doing recipes too, is because you got to buy 8 different things and you're only using a pinch of each.
Right.
Right. And if you have a little plant right there, it's a lot cooler and easier and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Grow for yourself, cook for yourself.
I love it.
You know it. Not really. Go out and eat at Tempest.
Yeah. or come to my restaurant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to cook, I know where to go.
Well, you're not going to cook every night. I don't need to be the every night place. That's
right.
Okay. I can deal with that. I'd like it if a lot more people cook for themselves. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Because then they'll know what they'll value what we do more.
Exactly right. Hey, that's one of the coolest things I've seen is the tip the kitchen thing that y'all do.
Yeah.
And real quick too, before you get off, I want you to talk more about what that. I think they're seeing the trends more because y'all are doing it now too. The gastronomy,
the economy gastronomy.
Dude, it's just, it's not fine dining's phased out. I think it's just like that people want to go out. It's like how I started drinking wine and you get into that phase and everyone's like, oh, this, that, and the other. And they're like so snooty that they won't help you understand it.
Yes.
I feel like that fine dining got away for a while.
Yeah.
And now it's finally coming back and being a unique experience where you can connect with the chef and connect with you and connect with the farmer and know those things are going at an affordable price.
Yep.
Right. So y'all are doing a really good one. Bistronomy by Nico is doing a really good one as well.
Cool.
And there's just a couple like really good affordable ones that I've really been impressed with.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The ethos for all that, I'm glad you brought it up, is like there's so much uncertainty going on out there, right? And what's going to happen with the economy? Right. Is the economy going up? Are we about to be in a depressed economy for a while?
Our third once in a generation.
Yeah, like nobody knows, and I think restaurants are supposed to be a safe haven for people to come to, relax
enjoy
their
all
fears.
Of life's accomplishments.
Yeah, man. And just like take a break, right? Like, hospitality, hospital, nourish yourself, take a break.
Let us do the dishes tonight. Right?
Exactly. And we believe that, like Fifth Street Group people, like we're all about that. And so the economy gastronomy is an effort for us to offer almost our entire menu, like a restaurant week type situation where you get 3 courses at a discounted price so that people can feel normal in a time where they can do normal things. They can come out and get taken care of and get, have a nice experience without having to worry about, is it going to cost me $100 a person, right? It's a fixed price. It's a reasonable price. It's less than you would pay if you were to go out and order 3 courses. And so it's to entice people to stay normal a little bit we'll take a little bit of a hit on the profit margin side of things. It's fine, in order to keep the industry healthy.
I think it's great.
Keep the community healthy.
One of the things that, when you saw this whole pandemic hit and when that happened, it was all like the restaurants were like, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me.
Yes.
And then when it turns, you're like, hey man, well, you remember that time when, shit was not your favor and we're like just throwing you $50 bills because it was just, everything seemed okay.
Yeah.
Right? Everything seemed okay.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just, y'all were hurt because we couldn't come see you.
Right.
And so I think it's great. And so I wanted to bring it up too, because it's one of the things that the whole sense of all the food and bev and the community and the farming. And that's what it was all about to me and where it started for me with all of this. So yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things is y'all let you tip the kitchen because man, I can't tell you how many times I haven't had a good server and I've loved the food.
Yeah.
But what you're the face of the deal. You're the server.
Yeah.
Right? And you're the one that I'm going to deal with and you're the one that I'm going to remember. And I'm not going to see the guy in the back busting his butt to put out that dish for like the 15th time in a row. Perfect.
Yep.
So that's where I think that y'all, and again, the ethos, the vibe that y'all give off and everything to that, I think you've proven yourself to the locals.
Yeah.
I think everyone has seen that and felt that, dude. And like I said, I love it. I love that y'all do that. That's one of the good things.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Not everyone does it. I mean, and I was always back of house.
Yeah.
Right. And you get forgotten real quick.
You do. And I think it's important to make the back of the house, to dissolve that rivalry, right? First off, and then also to entice people with culinary skills to like get back in the kitchen and make it a viable career.
How many servers went to culinary school, right?
Yeah. It's a huge investment of time, energy, sacrifice.
Dude, you went to college for it, man.
Yeah.
I say college, you went to an advanced education to hone your skills.
I think I paid off my culinary school loans when I was like in my late 30s. Like I'd already owned a restaurant and still were paying back. Well, I mean, it's expensive.
It's terrible.
Crazy.
Man, it was terrible. Yeah. Every time I had to write the check, it just irked me. And then, then you marry someone and like, oh, you've got student loan too. Great. So working that and then you're working that off and working. And then you see someone making double out there and going home and not sweating and not cleaning this kitchen and cleaning that fryer. Yeah. It hurt. Right. That's all right. They were the ones that always bought you drinks though. Right.
Cool. Well, listen, Hamilton, thanks for your time, man.
Yes,
thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Good luck with expansion and just doing what you're doing. I look forward to seeing what little goodies you have for me and for everybody else to play with. Best of luck, man.
Appreciate you, Chef.
Thanks.
You know it.
All right.